Welcome to The Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey, I hope everybody's doing absolutely amazing today. Of course, this is Holden back here again with The Sober Unicorn. I hope everybody is having an absolutely magical day. And if you aren't, I do hope that your day gets better. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to us here at The Sober Unicorn. All the social media contact links and everything are at the end of the episode. Today we have a guest by the name of Jeremiah. Hello, Jeremiah.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you today?
Hey, all is well. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Jeremiah and I actually met, maybe 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, probably.
He also is one of the housemates, just like Brett from the last episode. I brought up that I had a podcast, and he was like, took immediate action, was like, all right, let's go, I want to be on it. So we were very happy to have him on to discuss his experience with his journey of recovery and to talk about God. I know that's a hard conversation for a lot of people, especially in early sobriety. So we'll get into that a little bit later on where I come from being an atheist coming into the program into where he comes from with his religion. But until then, why don't you kind of give everybody kind of a history on where you were pre-recovery and what brought you in?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jeremiah, obviously. I'm from Jersey, New Jersey, South Jersey. So I've never been to New York because the closest city is Philly. I've been in New York, but it wasn't for the right things. I went to Brooklyn for a transaction, if you like to say. So I was raised in a suburban neighborhood. Pretty much, my mom really worked hard to try to get us everything we need, but we encountered the whole process of going to a church food bank and being on food stamps and not really having what everybody had around us. So I always felt like I was trying to keep up with people, but essentially I was exposed to those things because I had friends who exposed me to those things. So I definitely got to reap the rewards, if you would like to say, with the newest game console or the hippest shoes or anything. And it's predominantly Italians, and Italian mothers ended up loving me. So and it was cool. My upbringing was very it was hard because my mom wasn't around a lot and my dad was never present. I think the first time I even hung out with my dad was we went on a trip, and it was what is it called when you have a family reunion? That's what it's called. Yeah. It was actually in Pensacola, Florida. That's the first time I ever met him, and it was weird. It was just kind of like, who is this guy? I guess, like, do I have to be a certain type of way? And it was just ended up being more like not even a friendship, but just an acquaintanceship.
How old were you at that time?
At that time, I believe I was about 8.
You were already kind of getting to the age where you're like, bitch, who's this?
Correct, yeah. And there probably was one other time I met him, but like in that upbringing from 1 to 8. But, essentially I never remember or recall, but that's just the time I do remember. So, I was raised, and I was actually I was raised with my sister. I do have other brothers and sisters, my dad's doing, but I was raised in a household. First, it started off with my mom, which is my grandmom. I call her my mom, and then my mom, and then my sister. She's 1 year older than me, so we're really super close. And so I was around women. So I took on that, if you would like to say, I guess you could say I was metro.
There we go, yeah.
Very metro.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could say I definitely take a lot of pride in taking care of myself. And so what happened with that is I never was taught how to be a man. My mom would go through a few boyfriends, a man in my life, and she would try to do her best to present a man there to guide me, but it just never, I was never receptive to it, if you would like to say. So fast forward a little bit, I was very, I was bullied, and then I became bullied. No, I was a bully. No, I became bullied first, and then I took participation in the bullying, and then I done a little bullying myself. So I played all three roles. So really weird. And then in middle school, I formed this little trio, the three Blasketeers, if you, because we were like the minorities, going through a predominantly white school, Caucasian school. Graduated with 940 something kids in my graduating class in high school.
That's a big. I was going to say my high school, I think, was 450 students, and that alone was a huge fucking graduation.
Yeah. I mean, I was sitting next to a foreign exchange student from China who I'd never seen in my life, and at this time, I'm pretty, well known in the school, so you would think, oh, like, who is this person? It's all derived from ego. So I wasn't good at sports. It was middle school to where I was like, all right, I gotta like do something. And I noticed like basketball was something that I really enjoyed watching and doing. So what I did was taught myself how to play basketball. I wasn't the guy that was like practicing by himself. I would just play with older people, and then that was how I got better with anything. So I did that, and I made the high school team out of, I told you the graduating class. So you have people that's been playing basketball since they were like 2, and I made the team, and I only been playing for like, a couple months. So it was like, I was just athletic, I guess, the stereotype, we got that extra ligament, really kicked in that time. It really kicked in that time. So I made the team, and then just because I was on the team, even though I wasn't good at the time, like that's when popularity kind of hit. It's like being on the team, being a part of something bigger, and people looking at that. It's like, oh, you're somebody now, and I felt like I was somebody now. I remember I went to my first high school party. I think it was going into the sophomore year, which is when I actually got way better and joined the track team, and now I'm starting on the basketball team because I got really good, and now I'm running track. Once again, people that's been running all their lives, I'm over here running, beating them, and they're like sick. They're like sick about it. Oh man, and I use that to feel my ego. So yeah, that time happened. So then I went to my first party or whatever, right? And Keystone beer. Did you ever drink Keystone?
I was my beer drinking. I was a little bougie. Like the cheapest beer that I would drink was Stella Artois, and the at one point in time after 20,000 in debt, me not having much money.
Oh wow!
I had to order. I think it was Lone Star, which is like cheaper than Bud Light.
Wow.
And I really fucking felt humble.
Wow, that's some Texas stuff, huh?
Yeah, I was a bougie beer drinker.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah. I guess that's probably a low grade, lower than the Lone Star. But Keystone is the cheapest beer. And at the time, I was able to get liquor for us because I looked older and I was getting served. It was crazy. And I think that time I didn't get it because this is my first time being exposed to alcohol. This happens later. I remember drinking beer and acting like I'd done it before. I was like, oh yeah, let's crack beer. I'm like, yeah, there's me who's like, in the middle of the night, I'm double fisting with a beer on top of the other, and the other hand, a beer on top of one. So I had 4 beers walking around like Stone Cold Steve Austin, chugging back and forth. So then towards the end of the night, somebody comes with a bottle of Jack Daniels. And he's like, yo, brother. And I'm just like, yo, what's good? And he was like, you ever had this? I was like, no, give me that. Got it, killed his whole bottle. And then I started taking people's alcohol. I became a bully. In the midst of alcohol, that manifested more.
And this was your first time drinking?
Oh, first time ever.
And you're already showing signs of alcoholism.
Absolutely. I couldn't stop. And towards the end of the night, I remember this woman, I got taken care of by a woman, kind of like the motherly thing. Oh, it was very comforting. And I remember my friend was going to take us all home. And right when I got to the car, I just barfed. And it would look like a hose, like a fire hydrant just coming out. And then everybody was like, no, drive. So they ended up leaving me. And the one girl made sure I got home. God bless her heart. I still remember her to this day. Maybe I should thank her for that. But yeah, but that kind of what started my whole episode of like not being able to stop, if you like to say.
So at what point, I mean, of course, this is high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at what point did you seek out recovery, or did it get so bad that you needed to seek recovery?
Yeah, so as the years went on, I became, I guess you could say, a weekend warrior. And then I remember, before I get to that part, there was this girl that sat next to me in science class. You remember the big black lab tables?
Yes.
And this is the first time I ever experienced a girl being like a freak leak, if you would like to say, too. So she used to like show me pictures of like her vagina and playing with herself. And I was like, oh man, that's hot, you know? And then next thing you know, I started having more curiosity of her. And I noticed she was coming into class with like a water bottle, but it wasn't water in a bottle. It was like a brown substance or orange substance. And I'm just like, I was like, what is that? And she's like, peach schnapps. I was like, what is peach schnapps? And she was like, here, try some. So I tried some. I was like, ooh, this is good. Started drinking all her thing. And then she had to bring another bottle. She was bringing me a bottle and then herself, because I was just drinking it all. I remember that was like halfway during school hours. So it was like the middle period. I think it was like fifth period. So, you know, I was getting on. It wasn't an everyday thing, but, you know, still showing the signs. So fast forward, I'm still playing sports. And then I got injured on my senior year in high school. Got injured, got hooked on painkillers, and then I quit the basketball team after being able to go. I had a scholarship for academics, and if you played all 4 years, you were able to get a scholarship to go to a collegiate. Nothing major, but it was still, I had the opportunity to go to school for free, if you would like to say. So I ruined that. Just definitely did not care about that at all, and became a party addict, and then started going. I was going to college parties, by the way, when I was in high school. Like, I remember being a freshman, and people were like, "Who do you know?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm on a high school. I mean, I'm on a college team for ball." Oh, all right, come on. And then I used to get in these parties, and so I guess I played the con artist part really quickly too. So everybody would kind of use me to get to places, and you know, I thought I was like actually somebody to those people, but in reality, you know, those weren't friends at all. They were just acquaintances to benefit from me and for me to benefit for them. So yeah, that happened, and I got hooked on Vicodin, and then they had me prescribe Percocets, and before I knew it, I was a club promoter, and just going to these parties in Philly promoting, and then I went through the, you know, all the other stages of dry goods, the party drugs, if you would like to say, and you know, I touched every type of dry drug you could think of, yeah, that really had me in this delusional state of mind, you know, forever young, live it up. That's what I was doing when I was supposed to essentially be studying something for academics. So yeah, that happened, and then you know, once, by the way, I was always presented God. You know, I was raised in a Christian background, you know, going to church. I actually played the drums in church. And to rewind it a little bit, not to go too deep, I guess you could say around middle school, the first thing I ever had before alcohol was Ajax. Now, Ajax, yes, meaning I used to go into the bathroom at church, and I used to see an Ajax on top of the bathroom on the stall. Yeah. And I never knew what it was. You know, I'm just a curious person. So then I like looked at it, and then I seen this white substance on top of it, which was, I guess, the powder from the Ajax. So one day I just, you know, I licked it. And I was like, "Who?" You know, and I actually liked it. So then every week I would do that. It was like a ritual.
Hold on though. Yeah. Let's dive into this. Yeah. So Ajax, because that's a cleaner.
Absolutely.
So does it get you high?
You know, I wouldn't say it got me high, but like the psychological aspect of it was like the taste was different than anything I ever tasted.
Okay. And I think we're gonna find you on My Strange Addiction. Start eating some damn Comet or some mattress cushion. So, of course, let's fast forward a little bit to get to the subject of the episode. At what point did you need to, like, did you say let's stop, and how? What did you seek out to stop?
Yeah. So Uh, so once again, I'm in the midst of my addiction. Went through homelessness. Went through, being on the streets. Living the life in the hood, if you would like to say, dealing and slanging, doing all the whole nine. And after my brother passed away, I tried to commit suicide a few times. And that's when my family really kind of took notice more than not. They always had speculations, but they didn't know exactly what was going on. So then that's when they was like, all right, you got to go to treatment. Something needs to give. But the first time we didn't know anything. So I went to a hospital, said I was suicidal. Next thing you know, I'm on the top floor. I walk in, somebody's playing with their lips, and somebody's getting carted out on their freaking, and there's a straitjacket. And I was just like, whoa. And they're giving me, for withdrawals, they're giving me commonality. yeah. I had that little assessment. The dude's like, oh yeah, I don't think you're supposed to be here. I'm like, oh well, I don't think so either. Fast forward a little bit. I ended up calling the insurance. I've been to treatment twice already in Jersey. It didn't work. They're like, you got to do something. Either go to Arizona, Florida, or California.
Okay.
So I never been to either or. I thought Arizona. Why would I want to go to the desert? In California, why would I want to go where a place is chipping off every freaking year? So there's not going to be a California in 5 years. So that was my whole thought process. So I came to Florida, considering I had the family reunion there and everything. So came there only thinking I was going to stay 30 days. And then I ended up relapsing, going through my thing as soon as I got down here when I got out of treatment. And then I was a server at this place. And pretty much I ended up going back to the dry goods again. And then I ended up overdosing right on site as I was serving the family their food. Crazy episode. The manager at the time was very naive. But I woke up basically in the ambulance, and I woke up to the paramedic, and he's like, dude, you shouldn't be here. Your heart stopped for 4 minutes. And I'm just like, I didn't have a response to it. But I could tell you when I did wake up, like I felt this overwhelming sense of peace that I never felt in my life. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear Jeremiah. Like it wasn't, angels weren't singing in the background. But like I felt this sense of peace that I never ever felt in my life, even till today. I would say I had peace now, but it was nothing like this. Once again, my best thought of knowledge was okay, and I think that's the first time God really to where I felt it. Mm-hmm. To where he really showed up. Now, mine is I had a whole bunch of things that happened when I was homeless on the streets doing my thing. But, this is when I started taking notice a little bit more of God working in my life. Because it was also said to me when I was younger, oh, God, I never understood this. I went to a super Pentecostal church. Oh, God has a call on your life. And I'm just like, what? I'm just like, it's almost like, it almost felt like guilt tripping in a sense, but not like guilt tripping, but it was like, whoa. It was like 2 months. I'm like, whoa, oh, in the name of Jesus. Whoa, what's he talking about? And so I did what I had to do. I went to treatment. And then I started to realize that, maybe I am supposed to be doing something that other than doing drugs. Yeah. So I took the action. And basically I accumulated the time, and I started just reading my Bible, but more for what God was rather than what I can get from it. Because I read the Bible, but only for a selfish standpoint of like, how can this help me? What can I get from this? And then I took out everything I heard, everything I was taught when I was younger, and I basically just dived head first, like, okay, let me start with the New Testament, since this is like, not the Old Testament generation, if you would like to say, since this Jesus figure came down, as a man, I can relate with this more than the Old Testament. So started reading the New Testament, and then just felt my life kind of just molding and changing. It's a churning process that I'm going through, and that's a remarkable thing about it. And the great thing is that like I can even, I don't shun anybody for their beliefs. I don't look at anybody down for theirs, you know, because I dived into everything. The Quran, Buddhism, I dibbled and dabbled in other religions from my upbringing and when I went away from it. But
so the thing is, of course, going into a 12-step program, for anybody that's listening that has never been in or around a 12-step program, the center of it's a spiritual, non-religious program that people that attend or are in the fellowship seek out a higher power of their own understanding, not per se a God, although many of us refer to him as God, just because, number one, it's fucking easy. And many people take God as an acronym into like a group of drunks, group of druggies, good orderly direction, something else. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So when you went into a 12-step program, did you automatically use the Christian God when seeking spirituality?
That's a great question. Actually, I didn't. You know, because when they say a God of your own understanding, like I take that literally. So I'm like, okay, the God I know is going to let me get away with things. So the God is going to let me sleep with multiple women, be a hoe, do things without caring, manipulate people, lie, steal, cheat, you know, and like I didn't choose this God I'm serving now. Like it just, like I started seeking for truth, and seeking, you know, back into times of things when, you know, thousands of years ago where things kind of originated from in literature, just in general. And through my research, I found out that the Bible was a catalyst for any literature now, you know, and I found out that AA or the fellowship programs all derived from Oxford group, which is a Christian base. So I was like really compelled in that. I was like, this is interesting because this literature is so, like, you know, the program is so impactful when I read this literature. So let me dive a little further and to where it came from. And I thought that was really neat. And and that's what's really like drove me and magnetized me to start reading the Bible. That's what really helped. And I don't know. And prayer, my prayers used to be like very orchestrated from hearing people, you know, the serenity prayer, stuff like that. And then I started realizing that like there's a prayer that I could say that doesn't have to really sound like lavish or a certain way. And I have a relationship, like, I put it like this, I had to learn how to have a relationship with something other than people because I didn't know how to. I had to have a relationship with something that was greater than me to help me understand how to have relationships with people. Mm-hmm. I need to have a relationship with a higher power of the God, you know, because I couldn't love people, you know, so God shows me how to love people, you know, by turning and being gentle to myself. Because another thing too, like you hear a lot, now this is a controversial subject, but you know, you'll hear, just love yourself, you know, you gotta love yourself before you love somebody else. Now, once again, my literal mind tells me, I'm just gonna love myself, but then I became a narcissist. I love myself too much to where it's like, yo, everybody sucks. Like, I'm way better than you. I'm you know, and that's what, like, that's how my mind works. You know, I'm a very literal person, so when you say something, I take it, and I...
But all right, like, that just reminds me of RuPaul, because if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? But it's the truth, though, because sometimes, I mean, well, it's not everybody turns into a narcissist.
Right.
But I think we as addicts, alcoholics, tend to be narcissistic and self-seeking just because we drank, we got fucked up, we stole, we lied, we cheated, just to be able to get what we wanted and how we wanted it. We manipulated individuals, our loved ones, our relationships, our families, some worse than others, so I can only speak for myself, but the thing is, what's crazy is when I first stepped into the program, even though like I've been told I was a narcissist. I mean, for the amount of insecurities that I have, I'm surprised someone would call me that. But in turn, I stepped into a program no longer loving myself because now I can't use substance to hide, I would say, the insecurities that I had. But you talked about going into the history of like the books, the Oxford group and everything. And what's interesting enough is I see any literature in any 12-step program as a self-help book because we help ourselves to get better. Whether you agree or disagree, this is my opinion. No, but if you read, if I went to Walmart or Barnes and Nobles, whatever you get your books at, Kindle, and go to any self-help literature out there, it is all religious based. And I think it's just because we as humanity think about ourselves too fucking much and what we can do for ourselves rather than whether it's a religious program, a spiritual program, a Hindu, Muslim, whatever it may be. When you dive into it, it's about what you can do for other people.
Absolutely.
And we become selfless. And we are now concerned with when somebody calls us, it's picking up the phone to make sure they're okay. It's making that phone call to somebody to say, hey, how have you been? How are you doing? So what you talked about how you didn't come into the program using a religious aspect, but you grew up with it. So at what time in your program of 12-stepping did it turn into a religious entity for you?
Yeah, I would say there was just, so I was in a bad car wreck in 2022. In that car wreck, I was in the fast lane and somebody was in the right lane of me and we're going southbound and we're approaching the intersection and the car that was in my right lane made an illegal lane change into my lane, sent me onto northbound traffic. Scariest thing in my life. I was up for the whole thing. I never fainted, never passed out, which is the most remarkable thing too, because I dodged one car just to go into another car, and this car almost everything paused. Everything seemed like it paused, and I remember looking straight and seeing this person, but I seen no eyes and I seen no mouth. It was just almost like a silhouette of a person, and I don't know. I kind of get emotional talking about this, but there was once told to me, you're either in a storm, just getting out of one, or preparing to gear into one. I was in the thick of it, and I hit this lady head on from the wreckage that somebody else caused, and I just didn't see a face. I really think there was a guardian angel there for me. Because people seen that wreck and they're just like, yo, how do you walk away from that? Because I literally got right out the car and was standing up, took pictures of the whole car and everything. My adrenaline, it was I just don't believe that it was me, because I was very fatigued that day. I only had a couple hours of sleep and I was on my way to work and I was not speeding. It was bumper to bumper traffic actually. Through that darkness though came light, and that was the light I seen, and it was like a beautiful day outside. Because some people can look at their past records and look at the darkness, but I see the light within the darkness. And I believe that's where God is strongest at our weakest points. Point blank and period. But and that's when the attacks came on me. I had to go back out there and encounter some dark moments. And this might be really spooky what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But I can't make this up. I was getting attacked by literally demonic entities. Because essentially when we use drugs, we enter into a whole spiritual aspect, and it's a dark one. So I was tormented by in my religion. We call them demons. You can call them defects or whatever. Or shadow people. But it's real. It's a real thing. If with some dry goods, people are exposed to shadow people. Oh, I've been hearing this because it's real. And there was a whole committee whispering and talking to me. And I'm talking about felt like my chest was being, like suffocated when I'm sleeping. You can call it sleep paralysis. I tend to call it being tormented by a demon. But I encountered like a pulling on the leg. I seen shadow, whatever you want to say, shadow figures running, and me. And I even encountered a manifestation of these people, of these spiritual entities manifesting themselves in the people. I witnessed all that, from that. And you see me now, it's like through that darkness, like God brought me up into this light. And it's like, and there was always, I felt like there was always a calling that I ran away from. For instance, like, let me ask you, there's probably something that you always wanted to do, that you always felt like you needed to do, but you ran away from it. No?
No.
Okay, so I felt...
Because I'm a bad bitch. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, really? Well, excuse me, pretty young thing.
No, go ahead. I'll go into that a little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just felt like... I have, like... I can't make this up, but I had visions from when I was even on the streets of me doing and being there for people in some type of shape, form, or whatever. And I did everything in my might to not make it happen. I didn't think I was going to live to see 25 and 30 years old, and I made it to where I wouldn't purposely, or even accidentally. Mm-hmm. But I finally stopped resisting the calling. When people, there's a calling on your life, I think that calling was more of the purpose that God instilled in my heart, whenever that was. And I think now that I finally align myself with it, I'm making the necessary sacrifices. One thing I realized, sacrifice equals love. And it's the ultimate sacrifice in my religion that Jesus paid and settled on the cross for us, because as a man, when he was on the cross, he bore everything that we encounter today. And that's what the symbolization of the cross is. Taking up your cross is going through the backstabbing that he went through, the torment, the shame, the guilt, all the naysaying, the whipping, and the persecution. I'm willing to go through that persecution, and I have. And we all have. We all have, in some shape or form, tormented ourselves if we weren't tormented by other people. What's that saying? You can't do more for yourself than what somebody else can do to you, or something along those lines. Something along those lines. But this might sound deep too, but I'm willing to die for what I believe in.
Yeah, which is, important. Well, I wouldn't say important, but it's great to feel that passionate about something or something that you believe in. So we'll kind of course, we talked about his religious thing. We'll touch on me stepping into a 12-step room as an atheist. I was in the church. I chose to go to the church at the age of, I think I was 15 when I first started going. Ooh. I was very heavily involved in the church, singing church choir.
Wow.
I was teaching Sunday school to the little children, the children of the Lord. And I was heavily involved. I was at church 3 days a week. And then around, I think the age of 17, I would say, the rumors of my homosexuality came about. And my pastor sat me down and was like, are you gay? And I'm like, no, of course not. And he's like, well, just so you know, if you are, you're going to hell.
Wow.
Kicked me out of choir. I was no longer allowed to teach Sunday school. And then what was cray-cray is the youth pastor moved with his wife to Washington or something to start his own church. My uncle had passed. And I, of course, being queer, a lot of us feel more comfortable talking to women. Mm-hmm. So I called his wife just to kind of let out the emotions I was feeling. I get a fucking text message from this bitch, husband, afterwards stating, you're in high school now. I don't appreciate you reaching out to my wife. I don't think it's appropriate for you to be calling her.
Wow.
And I'm like, bro, like, I'm not trying to pick up on your wife. I mean, if only you knew it was you that I wanted. But it's so.
So you wanted the pastor?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so you got to go for the cream of the crop.
So I disassociated myself from church entirely, and then I get into a relationship with my first partner. He was Pentecostal Christian, the Harvest Church in California, and he's like, in 3 years we were living together in California. I was like, I'll go to church with you. One time, what do they preach about? Homosexuality.
Wow.
I said, I'm done. Like. Wow. I was like, fuck this shit. I walked out of church, and I've been back to church since, like, once or twice. So for me, I can't get down with the religious entity of God. Right. And it's not even per se the God, because when I was in contact with that type of God, I felt nothing but love and compassion. Right. It was his followers that drove me away and created this... this hatred towards that type of God. And through recovery, I had an old coworker. He was 14 years sober. He asked me to come to his church to hear him speak. And I was like, sure, I'll go. And during the, I don't know what you would call it, the music portion, let's just say that.
Yeah, praise and worship.
Yeah, but they're like singing and dancing and hooting and hollering. Like, it was a huge sense of, like, emotion came over me, because it pulled me back to that time when I was in such contact, and I was about to break down, and then I'm like, nah, bitch, like, you hate God, so don't let this get to you. But throughout the time, the 9.5 months that I had previously, and now through the 12-step program, I use the term God because it's easier to say. I don't know if my God is a man or woman, a leprechaun, we talked about an iguana Jesus on this podcast. I just know that it's there. Yeah. Whatever it is. And it's helping me stay sober. And the thing is prayer. My prayers are fucking simple. It's thank you for another day clean. When I wake up, it's just please guide me throughout the day. I mean, whether it's the universe, law of attraction, whether it's these damn balloons that are flying all over the country guiding me. All I know is that whatever God is out there is listening and taking part in my life and making sure that I go into a direction that is good for my life. And talking about demons, I don't know if anybody else listening, probably. I'm just saying. I mean, most people here are in recovery. So depending on what you are in recovery for, I've also seen shadow people, and it's crazy because when I was using and in the funeral business, I would see the people that I dealt with in the prep room, and so like they would kind of follow me home. Wow. And I would have to be like, okay, this is not your home. Like, come back to work with me in the morning. Your family's waiting, type of thing.
That's real stuff.
Yeah, but there was multiple times to where I had seen shadow people, hearing voices, seeing people in my room. I remember picking up a homeless man, actually, because I was high as hell, wanted some play. And he was, like, in my room, like, literally just spacing out because the people he was seeing in my room, too. So I don't know if they were the same people I was seeing. Maybe there was just all kinds of motherfuckers up in my room. And what's crazy to me is I think those people, there are entities or demons or just that energy, I feel follow us every day. I think just what we do in our life, we go somewhere and just the energy follows us home. And the thing is, when we're using as much as we did in our addiction, we're putting ourselves closer to death. And I think that's why our minds are opened up to that. And that's why if you've ever been around a loved one right before they pass away, most of the time in their last moments, they're like, oh, mom's in the corner of the room. And it's like her mother that's already passed on. And it's because they're close to death, so they're seeing their loved ones that are like waiting for them on the other side.
Yeah, there's actually scientific proof that when you die, your brain activity is still actually going. It actually supersedes more than what your brain activity is doing, just in the general sense of things.
Yeah, there's a clinical death and a brain death, which is two different times.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It does take from the moment you have if anybody hears noise, we are in a living room. Remotes have fallen on the floor. Girl, we still ain't got this podcast perfect yet. When a person passes away and they have time of death, it's still like, I think it's like 7 to 20 minutes after that when the brain finally stops ticking. Which is, I think, fucking crazy to me.
Yeah, that's very compelling.
But it's interesting to talk to somebody that we're in the same fellowship, can pray to the same God, but yet such a different God.
Yeah.
The same but different God can help us through a journey of recovery, get us sober, or will help keep us sober. I wouldn't say they got us sober, but I would say help keep us sober.
Yeah.
And have so many different life experiences, but yet can still have a civil conversation. We're not doing this to try to say our God is any more correct than another God that anybody here is listening to. If the damn beach is your God, then that's fucking great. I know many people use the ocean as a higher power. And that is the most important thing, is like, if you are struggling in addiction and you want to get help or need to get help, don't allow 3 fucking letters pull you out of a room. Don't allow 3 letters to deter you from getting your life together. Because guess what? Like, every day sober is a fucking miracle, because there's so many people out there that never get an opportunity to get 24 hours clean and sober.
Absolutely.
So don't allow 3-digit or 3 letters, just the same fucking numbers. This ain't math, bitch. Don't allow those 3 letters to keep you out, because tonight may be the night you overdose.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind. Again, I'm not trying to scare all y'all into sobriety, but it's just important to look at different aspects of everything. So, as we come to the close of the episode, is there anything that you haven't said that you would like to tell everybody?
Excuse me. I think for anybody listening here, who may be on the brink of like toying with death, as we talked about, and I think that's just the darkness within us that likes to entertain death, because it's easy to die, hard to live. There's always hope, and the light is always shining through the darkness, as I mentioned earlier. But for me, people was always a distraction. People were always something I correlated with the program that turned me away before. And also people of the faith of Christianity pose a different side of what God really told us to be. So the church hurted me just like it hurted you in a different way. But then I started looking at, okay, let's go through the source. And, for me, like, I say it's essential to have a role model in your life. Not somebody that's all about the glitz and glow fame, like not your favorite rapper, because it's kind of unrealistic, but like somebody that actually stands for something. My biggest role model is Jesus. It's a man that walked this earth, essentially. So like, that's just my role model. And I just think it's the best platform and the best man figure I can amount up to, not having a dad in my life. So it could be, another role model of mine is Jordan Peterson. I love Jordan Peterson. If Jordan Peterson ever listens to this, please, I want to meet you.
Who is that?
Oh, so Jordan Peterson is he's a psychologist. He's a doctor and scientist as well. And he did a biblical series on the Old Testament of Genesis and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. And I'd never heard of him. It was just, I only heard of him when I had my car accident. And he like popped up when I was listening to this pastor one time, like kind of in the corner. I was like, And I started listening to him. And he puts everything in a fundamental, practical sense, in a psychological sense, to where you can understand it and you'd be like, wow. So like he kind of had me come back to my origins, and then look at like the truth in my life. It had to be brought out. And it really helped me just become, I guess you could say, who I've become today, rather than, me reading the Bible. But he's actually a person that lives today, you know, and who's very influential in my life. So, you know, anybody that stands for something on the uppest, most practical moral good that you can think of, I'll say take a hold of that and you know, use that as a platform, as a role model.
Of course. I mean, I would say, I mean, my role model is not Lizzo. No, I'm kidding. Probably not the best recovery role model, as she had like 4 flasks on her at the Grammys. One, she said 2 for her, 1 for Adele. But honestly, people that I look up to within the recovery realm are the people that share their struggle, the people that come in and that share this is one day clean, I'm fucking hurting, picking up a white key tag, a silver chip, or people that fucking reach out to me or anybody, any one of my guests here at the Sober Unicorn, where like knowing that people want to get better and attempt, that's a fucking role model. Because guess what? Getting off of heroin, getting off of alcohol, going through relapsing, going through detox is not fucking easy.
No.
And like, you are fucking powerful and you are strong as fuck to even attempt to go through that shit. Whether you make it through or you don't and you go back out, like the attempt of it is what fucking mattered. Because guess what? You will attempt again and get further and further until finally one day it just clicks. So Jeremiah, if anybody resonated with your story, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, so I'm going to be back on my IG very soon, but I haven't been active for some months. But it's Jeremiah_Crometti, which is my last name. No, we don't usually
spell
use
all
last
that.
Name. Yes, so Jeremiah, Jerem as in man, A as in apple, H as in Harry, _Crometti. That's C as in cat, R as in Roger, U as in umbrella, M as in man, E as in Edward, T as in tango, Y as in yo-yo, because I used to play yo-yos when I was younger. So yeah, that's, and then my Facebook is also the same thing without the underscore, Jeremiah Crometti. But yeah, I'll be back on social media very soon, so that's where you can find me, and thank you, Holden. You stay holding those bars. I love his name, by the way. It's an honor and a privilege for you to have me on your platform, to be able to have a really peaceful discussion about like just the God concept in general.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you came on. It's always greatly appreciated to have any of our guests on to share their story, because I mean it takes a lot of balls for one to get sober, and then it takes a lot of fucking guts to be vulnerable and share your story with people listening. It takes a lot of vulnerability for that, so I do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody, of course, as you know, it's me again here, Holden, with the Sober Unicorn. I hope that everybody has a fantabulous day. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast, or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes, as well as our very own sober-owned shop, featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember, everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.